Good afternoon, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news this afternoon, Clarendon man killed, wife robbed after checking on neighbor's burning home. A man was killed by gunmen after checking on his neighbor's burning home in Green Meadows, Clarendon on Sunday. His wife had been robbed by the killers just minutes earlier after making a similar check on the fire. The deceased has been identified as Derek Morgan, otherwise known as Jim, a 62-year-old truck driver of Green Meadows. Reports are that about 9:20 p.m., Morgan's wife had just driven into her yard when she observed a neighbor's house on fire. When she went to investigate, she was attacked by two men dressed in dark clothing and mask, who robbed her of her cell phone at a gunpoint and ordered her back into her house. About 2 minutes later, Morgan, on his way home from a domino game, also stopped to make checks at the burning house. He was attacked and shot multiple times. The police were summoned, and on their arrival, Morgan was seen lying face down on the ground with gunshot wounds to the back of his head and the back. He was taken to the Mapen Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. The owner of the house that was set ablaze was not at home at the time of the incident. Attorney alerts Jamaicans to imminent new U.S. immigration challenges under Trump. Jamaicans seeking to migrate to the United States with their families are likely to encounter major challenges following the election victory of Donald Trump, according to Florida-based attorney Wayne Golding. Golding, speaking with the news, said a ruling last week by a Trump-appointed judge has delivered a major blow to Jamaicans in the U.S. who are awaiting a pathway to citizenship. He said the judge rejected a policy proposal by the Biden administration to offer a pathway to citizenship for people who had been living in the U.S. for years. According to Mr. Golding, there is a fear that the Trump-appointed judges will not offer any protection to migrants under the new Trump administration. He warned as well that Jamaicans and their families preparing to migrate under the chain migration policy will face major challenges taking their children to the United States.
They created a pathway for them to now get their documents in the United States. Over 500,000 people would have benefited. But within the last day or so, a Texas judge has ruled that the program is illegal and has basically pulled the rug from under those people's feet. And I see this as a beginning because this is one of the judges that were appointed by President Trump. And, the safeguard that Americans rely on over the years have been the court. And taking your case to the court, and hopefully you will get a decision that's legal rather than tainted with political support or political bias. But now we are seeing more and more that the court is extremely political in its decision. Well, there's a provision in immigration law in the United States that if you're a U.S. citizen, naturalized or otherwise, born here, and you have siblings that you would like to sponsor into the United States, you could do that. And along with those siblings that you sponsor, brothers and sisters, obviously, their children under 21 would also benefit from that sponsorship. There wouldn't have to be a separate sponsorship for the children. So, for example, if your brother were to sponsor you and you had 5 children under the age of 21, they'd all come with you. Your spouse would come with you on that application. They made a strong argument the last time around to eliminate that category. And unfortunately, that's a category that many, many Caribbean Jamaicans have benefited from over the years.
JPS seeks US $26 million from Electricity Disaster Fund for hurricane damage. Light and power provider, the Jamaica Public Service Company, has applied to the Office of Utilities Regulation to withdraw US $26 million from the Electricity Disaster Fund to shore up repairs required as a result of Hurricane Beryl, which impacted the island in July. In turn, the OUR, which maintains the management of the EDF, is contemplating whether to increase the customer's contribution, which currently stands at Jamaica $19 per month for customers using a minimum of 150 kilowatt monthly. This comes despite an assurance given in July that customers would not face additional charges to support the GPS's post-hurricane restoration efforts. During a webinar on Friday titled The Electricity Disaster Fund, A Shelter in the Storm, Dr. Cedric Wilson, OUR Deputy Director General with responsibility for water, electricity and sewage, explained that the JPS's transition and the distribution assets now stand at around US $522 million. The ideal amount to have in the EDF is 15% of the T&D assets, or around US $78 million to US $80 million, he added. The current rate of 11% sees the EDF at US $56 million. To get to that 15%, it would be approximately US $78 million to US $80 million, so that would be the comfort level that we would have for the fund, Wilson said. It might be necessary for us to make some effort to get to that level, and in that process, which we will have to look at as the regulator and to consider whether it might be reasonable to increase the level of inflows into the fund and how much that increase ought to be, he added. Like in the case of insurance, where premiums tend to go up in the millions in the aftermath of a hurricane, there might be consideration of increasing the flow from $2 million to a higher than ever level to ensure that we might not be out of pocket if there is an event next year, God forbid, or very shortly after, the Deputy Director General explained further. The current charge of 19 Jamaican dollars for customers consuming a minimum of 150 kilowatt of electricity per month pumps approximately US $2 million into the EDF on a monthly basis. On July 17, nearly 2 weeks after Hurricane Beryl impacted Jamaica, the news reported that customers were not expected to pay additional charges for extensive damage to the JPS infrastructure following the passage of the hurricane, given that the company had access to up to US $50 million from the fund. The report stated that an assessment by the company had revealed damage to 94 transmission structures, 2,602 light poles, 4,287 conductors, 137 transformers, and 2,185 other transmission and distribution equipment. The EDF was established in 2004 as part of a tariff structure to determine rates which may be changed in respect of the provision of electricity service and to protect the interest of consumers in relation to the supply of electricity service in accordance with the OUR Act. The objective of the EDF, according to the OUR's website, are to, among other things, reduce the uncertainty with respect to the funding of restoration activities in the event of a natural disaster and to minimize the financial impact on consumers since they might be required to pay higher rates in the aftermath of a natural disaster. It states that the capacity of the sector to recover quickly after a disaster is critical to the resilience and the long-term stability of the economy. Guys, thank you for watching. See you this evening at 6 p.m. for another news update.